So, welcome everybody. I guess we can start this conference. Many thanks for being here. So, I'm happy to introduce you to Fabrice Forest and Vaysse, both from Grenoble Alpes University that will present us UX methods for innovation with digital user communities. So gentlemen, the floor is yours. To everybody, just maybe you don't know yet, but if you have questions, please do not hesitate to ask and write them in the chat. You're all unmuted. I will be happy to read the questions at the end of the conference. And Fabrice, Kena, maybe you have 25 minutes, so to have the 5 last minutes for questions. So the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I have shut down the camera because I have some breaks in the connection, sorry. So thank you. Good morning, I'm Fabrice Forest. Maybe a few words to introduce ourselves. So I'm Fabrice, so I'm responsible for the valorization of research within the INNOVACS Research Federation from the University of Grenoble and CNRS. This is a research federation gathering 18 laboratories to conduct interdisciplinary research on innovation issues through human and societal issues. INNOVACS is located in the Maison de l'Innovation et de la Création, in English House of Innovation and Creation in Grenoble, where we operate 300 square meters user experience platform to make research, but also to accompany the companies in their innovation projects. And also a few words from Kena.
Yeah, okay, I'm Vaysse, and I work with Fabrice for INNOVACS, and together we co-developed the university program called Method for Change, which aims to ease the transfer of innovation methods from the University of Grenoble to territories or enterprises or organizations.
Thank you, Kena. So our talk is about the user experience method that has been developed by the researchers, mainly sociologists, within the INNOVACS lab. The talk is organized into 4 sections. First, we will introduce the main principles of this UX method, which is called CAUTIC, for user-aided design for innovation, technology, and change. And then we will depict briefly the process, the 3-dimensional process of the CAUTIC method. And then at the end, Kena will illustrate the method with a recent use case. And finally, we hope having 10 minutes for the discussion. So first, we introduce the main principle of the CAUTIC method. This CAUTIC method is a user experience method to improve the probability of a wide and sustainable diffusion of an innovation to the users. By first determining the meanings of use attributed by the users to an innovation, and secondly by characterizing the different user identity profiles concerned by this innovation. These couple of concepts are the main principles and tools of the CAUTIC method. This method is a relatively old method, invented in the 2000s by the team of the socioeconomist Philippe Malin, but which has been continuously subject of research, improvement, and feedback for 20 years. But all the recent improvements through recent tools and new processes are still based on these 2 main principles. So first, I will present a bit more in details these main principles, so you understand better how CAUTIC method works. Here is a description of the first basic principle, which is called the meanings of use criteria. The main goal of the CAUTIC method is to understand whether the innovation makes sense for the user. So we have to learn from the sociology what making sense means for the user, and to establish some criteria to evaluate this sense making. So an innovation makes sense by arriving in the existent in the existing context of the users. And this context is made of four dimensions. The first dimension is the existing know-hows or techniques of the users. The second dimension is existing practices. The third dimension is the identity of or the values of the user personality. And the last dimension is the existing social or professional environment of the user. So the first tool of the CAUTIC method in order to apply this principle is to use a set of criteria in order to observe these dimensions and to evaluate how the innovation interact with the user's context at these four levels. So today we have 16 criteria that enable exploring the meanings of use and to characterize also how the innovation makes sense for the user. So when we evaluate the user experience for we use for a given innovation, we use these 16 criteria to check whether the user can assimilate the new techniques to his existing know-how, associate the new practices to the existing practices, if the user can appropriate the innovation to his identity, and if the user can adapt the innovation to his social or professional environment. Here in this slide, we have written one example of one criteria for each dimension. For instance, on the second level, the first criteria consists in verifying that the existing practices of the users are not completely replaced by the new practices with the innovation. So the new practices with this innovation will mix the existing ones. And at the entire level of the user practices, it is a good sign of acceptance when there is a mix or what we call an hybridation with the existing practices instead of substitution. So the CAUTIC method is mainly based on this first tool, the meanings of use criteria. It consists in a qualitative inquiry towards a sample of targeted users. We interview this group of users to evaluate the meanings of use criteria. The criteria that are validated means that the innovation makes sense for the user. There is a strong acceptance probability. When there are criteria that are evaluated with a conditional acceptance, that means that there are some ways to improve that are suggested by the users. And the criteria that are not validated means that there is a strong risk of rejection. The innovation does not make sense for the user. There is a low acceptance level. We have to reconsider deeply the innovation concept. And it is interesting to repeat this evaluation to accompany the design process and the life cycle of the innovation, so you can improve and check regularly your product or service in order to check regularly whether it meets or not the user expectations. Now we present the second main principle of the CAUTIC method, which is the user identity profile. The sociology of user experience says that the users are not the same in front of an innovation. Users are more or less open to innovation, to the novelty, to change. And this is also well known in marketing methods. So when we evaluate the meanings of use criteria, we have to know who we are talking to. Are we talking to people who are passionate by innovation and change, or people who are strongly attracted by tradition, continuity, stability? Statistics says that most of the users are pragmatic. So when you interview people to evaluate the meanings of use criteria, you have to make sure you have a good sample group that mixes the user profiles with regard to innovation and with a majority of pragmatics. So we have developed a tool, which is a questionnaire, to identify and characterize the user profiles you are interviewing depending on these types of profiles. The questionnaire is made of 8 to 10 questions. This questionnaire depends also on the application domain. For instance, the users are not the same in front of innovation in the domain of energy, or that in the domain of healthcare, mobility, food, or sports. It's not the same. The change means something different in these different domains. So the user identity profiles are contextualized in these application domains. So the questionnaire enables to characterize with whom you evaluate the meaning of use criteria. You can ensure that you try to make sense for the majority, and you can learn from the early adopters and from the reluctants as well. Sometimes we work on very complex innovation systems, especially
Fabrice? Kena, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, Fabrice is gone. Can you maybe just overtake the presentation, please?
So all the profiles are important to build your strategy. So not only the profiles that we ensure the return on investment. So here comes the overall overview of the CAUTIC method in terms of process. We've got five phases, which include nine steps. We're
can you hear me?
We start, yeah.
Okay, you're back. Good.
So I passed your slide, Fabrice, and we're at the process. Okay, Fabrice, do you hear us? Oh, somebody hears me?
Yes, Kena, can you, Fabrice seems to have some problem. Could you overtake the presentation, please?
Yeah.
Many thanks.
So in the first phase, we formalize the concept of the innovation according to the 4 CAUTIC dimensions, and we create usage scenarios. Then in the second phase, we characterize the user sample groups that we are targeting, and we recruit them. It goes to the creation of interview guidelines, and we analyze the results, and we make them online datas. And in the last phase, we derive suggestions to improve the innovative concept, and sometimes we start a new iteration, so it cycles again. So I can present you briefly the 3-dimensional CAUTIC surveys that okay. The whole CAUTIC thing is a really agile method. So you can either work with people on face-to-face interviews. We also do with the actual situation. We have webinars to make CAUTIC possible. So the traditional method invented by Philippe Malin was only qualitative interviews with sample groups. And today we also make online surveys to evaluate the innovation towards the user we interview remotely. So this is the second stream. And as a third stream, we can also investigate the social networks to identify user communities and to listen them. We use a focus about the existing practices and their reactions to innovate. We focus about their existing practices and their reactions to innovation in the domains we're innovating. So at the end, the concept evaluation, the suggestions and the new concept is fed by the 3 facets of the CAUTIC inquiry. Okay. So I'm gonna we still have 10 minutes. The face-to-face inquiry is made of a set of 10 to 20 interviews, with the pre-selected interviewees according to the user profiles. Like Fabrice told us, most of the interviewees are pragmatics, but we still try to have 30 to 40% of passionates, and the interviews are individual or focus group. The best method for quality and reliability of the results is individual interviews. So the online inquiry is very complementary to the face-to-face. The quality of the collected information is not as good as quality and sharpness of a face-to-face study, but the quantitative dimension enables to consolidate the qualitative results. So we recruit the interviewees on social networks, on the customers database mailing lists. The questionnaires are unlimited, and also we can make it worldwide without to collect feedback with users that have different needs. So users can have different needs, values, culture, etc. It can feed the innovation concept with variations depending on the market you target. And to end with, for the whole three-dimensional CAUTIC process, we have created a web application called the CAUTIC Network to manage these online inquiries. We use it also to collect and treat all the data we gather from the three-dimension CAUTIC. Okay, and sorry, I'm gonna go fast on the use case with we had in 2019 with it's the e-road. Oh, it's the road bike company owned by the Rossignol brand. So we started with 4 innovation principles that were those presented to the subject or used to investigate the social networks. These innovation principles were the autonomy, like we had an electric road bike with autosufficiency. In the second hand, it was also an hybrid 2-in-1 bike that can be a super lightweight bike without electric module. It had the possibility to program the type of ride to come, like if you want to train. You can also choose to go on fitness rides or just on discovery modes. And the concept also had a mobile app to set and monitor all the bike parameters. And we have conducted the three-dimensional CAUTIC process, like I just showed you. And okay, I went too fast. Like the online survey and social network immersion were only in France, but for the in-person inquiries, we did focus groups in France and face-to-face interviews in Canada. So we discussed the pros and cons of this innovation principle with more than 80 people, online and in person, knowing that in person there were semi-directional interviews, and for the social network immersion, we had 6 really specific road bike forums. So these helped get a color of the 4 innovation principles we had at first. So you see, like, the 2-in-1 is green because there is a strong validation of the concept, but there is more questions about autonomy, the selection of rider profiles, and the mobile apps. So the CAUTIC coding filter helped us categorize these data we got from interviews on meaning. So the data of meanings of use. We see that the autonomy gathers a lot of discussion. Like it had about 2 times more questions than the selection of riders profile. So this step of the study also helped us discover the full potential of the concept in terms of user experience. That is to say, we managed to enlight 13 new themes around the 4 we decided at the beginning. So, like there, on the right side of the slide, you see the concept is in fact much more complex than we imagined at first. So when you do a CAUTIC listening, you get a lot of looking like nose data, but you don't throw them away. You use because you know these are the data constitutive of the whole user experience. So that is to say, we managed to enlight 13 new themes around the 4 decided at the beginning. And for each theme, we could make a small, here is a small synthesis, but we had a bigger one for each theme when we gave the company the CAUTIC results. And we also get at the end of each CAUTIC inquiry the possibility to repeat what we did based on this grill on the attractivity of each meaning of use criteria. So here we can see for each meaning criteria or profile how the concept validation went for the first version of the bike. Fabrice, are you back?
Yes, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, it's very. I apologize for this problem with the connection. I could hear some pieces of.
So there are 5 minutes left. Do you want to continue, or is this the end?
This is the end of the presentation. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Kenna. Yes, this is the conclusion,
Kenna,
and thank you, Kenna, for this.
I don't know if Fabrice is back.
Yes, this is the conclusion. What we have to conclude is that.
Okay, unfortunately not, I guess.
Okay, it seems like I hear Fabrice.
Yes, me too.
But it looks like I'm the only one who hears Fabrice.
No,
apparently, yes,
from
because I cannot hear him. But I hear you very well, Kenna, so...
Okay, I hear Fabrice, I don't know why.
Do you hear me, David, from INNOVACS?
Okay, maybe we have some questions. I'll have a look at the chat, and maybe David has some question as well.
Yes, Laure, do you hear me?
Okay.
Okay, so apparently no question in the chat. People are quite timid. So, Kenna, I really liked your approach combining face-to-face and digital evaluations. Apparently, it We are here experiencing a new world with all being digital, but face-to-face is very much important. And I guess for questions as well, people are maybe more feeling at ease when they have the speakers in front of them. David,
I'm sorry first because I went really fast on the second part of the presentation because Fabrice knows more details than I do.
No problem.
So,
but now I see some questions. Fabrice, we see you, but we don't hear you. But maybe you can answer this question. How long is the process? The whole process?
Okay. The whole process goes like at first you don't necessarily go with a three-dimensional CAUTIC. The whole process can take 2 months to 6 months. Like for the e-bike, we had 6 real months of work. So it took, like, for the 3 first phases. I go back to there. On the 3 first phases, we can say it takes from 1 to 3 months. If we go with the full process, then on analyzing, plan and carry out the data collection and analyze the coding results, it takes 2 to 3 months, and the whole synthesizing and producing suggestions can take 1 month. So. And you have to understand that it's a iteration process, so this can be repeated again and again. Mm-hmm. But the problem we had with the bike, for example, was that it's a really complex bike with 4 innovation principles, and if you reduce this number of innovation principles, it can go much faster.
Mm-hmm. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Just to complement, sorry again. Just to complement the Kana's answer. Yes, it depends on the process, on the innovation, but the use case that Kana depicted was quite experimental, so it was quite long. And the first time you make it with a given product, you have to set up a lot of things, so it could be longer. But once you have established a process on a given innovation, and when you want to make it again on a given innovation, it's faster and faster. And a normal process to do that is about 2 months maximum. And that's true that on the use case depicted by Kana, it was 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Many thanks. And which kind of persons are involved in the whole process? Do you work with sociologists, anthropologists, and other skills?
Mainly sociologists, psychologists, and also management science experts. And in the companies, we work with mostly with the engineers and also with the marketing people.
Mm-hmm. Okay, many thanks. Very interdisciplinary. So I don't see any additional questions. Again, many thanks to both of you. Kenya, congratulations, Kenya, for taking it over short notice.
Again, sorry for this.
No problem. This was very interesting. I invite, the conference was recorded. You will have all access to the presentation afterwards, and otherwise, I don't know if you could put your contact in the end, maybe. And again, many thanks, and have a good day.